Honda, Chevy, Beamers, and minivans. Over 600 cars, trucks, SUVs. Are you listening, man? Let Eastern Motors put you in a car today. Let Eastern Motors finance it all the way.
I think we found our new running gag last week.
Oh, man. I'd let Ray Lewis sell me a car. What could go wrong?
I love how they did that as like an olive branch to the Baltimore portion of the DMV. It's like, hey, we got all these Washington players. We got to get a Raven in there. Let's get Ray Lewis in there, too. Just an olive branch for the northern part of the DMV and have them come to Eastern Motors, too. We're going to get Ray Lewis. I mean, granted, that era is not like the Orioles had anyone, but
great smile on Ray in there. You know, I mean, just beaming.
Ford, Honda, Chevy, Beamers, and minivans. Over 600 cars, trucks, SUVs. Are you listening, man? Let Eastern Motors put you in a car today. Let Eastern Motors finance it all the way.
Got a lot more charisma. Yeah, that's.
He's having the time of his life.
Yeah, a lot more charisma than Carmelo just bobbing the head. He's feeling it.
Oh yeah.
If just remind me, give me the heads up if Ovi scores, because then we got to find the Ovi Eastern Motors.
Oh, 100%.
Completely derail our episode. But welcome to the Crosse Commission Saturday Power Hour. I'm Ryan. He's Jake. And we've got you covered this week. So had some Saturday evening lacrosse with Maryland, Virginia. We'll get you set up for rivalry Saturday night lacrosse. You got Albany Bryant. You got the Long Island Derby with Stony Brook Hofstra. And you got the emerging rivalry of Johns Hopkins University versus the U.S. federal government. Johns Hopkins Navy.
Oh, baby.
Topical.
Oh, my God. Holy smokes. Jesus. Oh, Lord.
We're starting this off with a heater, folks.
Oh, my God. Jesus Christ. From way downtown. Bang!
Bang! Bang! Double bang.
That's a double bang. That's a double bang.
Oh.
I'm sorry.
But yes, Hopkins Navy, Annapolis. Quite the week for that game to happen.
Oh, goodness. Look, that's some primo Randy Johnson, just 98. You know,
up and in,
downhill, on the black. Oh man, that's one of those you can only say, like, you know, on the mic, you know, on video, you know, if we tweet it out, you know, like 10 minutes it just starts spreading like wildfire too soon. It's like when I tweeted, it's like when Mark Dixon said something about like how Penn State, like it took Tamburoni a while to like get the program going after the football team with like the Paterno deal, and I was just like, what? And like Steve was like, Jay, you can't tweet that. He's like, you got pulled back on that one.
Yeah, that's a little too hot.
He's like, you just got pulled back. Certain things you guys got to say for, like, you know, live radio. Oh man, what a start! Things get dangerous when there's only two. When it's just us two here.
Yes. If Safe was on with us tonight, he might have died laughing by now.
His phone would have just crashed. His Wi-Fi would have crashed. Oh man.
Oh man. So lighter slate today, but still a very entertaining one. Opening weekend in the Ivy League. Had some other rivalry games dotting across the calendar. Patriot League win Patriot League. Richmond did Richmond things. We'll discuss that. But if you like the start of this video and us doing an all-time heater, what should you do, Jake?
I think you should smash that like button. I figure if you like our style of humor, then you probably like us talking lacrosse, and you should like the video. So we can so we can talk lacrosse more, and you can listen to us talk lacrosse more. Subscribe, so you get more videos. Hit notifications, when we're gonna do it. But smash that like button. Does good things for us. That's a good word.
All right, so let's get started with the big matchup of the day, which was an entertaining one.
You got your phone. You got your phone on you.
Yeah, let's get that clock going, and let us get an hour on the clock. And we will begin now.
Let's do it.
With the matchup between a real I would say definitely a battle of two teams that represent the working class. Noted state school Cornell University and union supporting Princeton University. Go back to last week's game and see the midfield added for some local ironworks union. So the Solidarity Derby, Cornell Princeton, champions of the working class. They squared off, and Cornell is going to have the early Ivy League superiority with a 15-10 victory over Princeton. This game was really all about the start. 7-2 run to start the game for the Big Red, taking advantage of Princeton's face-off deficiencies and pouring it on a bit. Princeton did claw back into the game, but then the Big Red, strong end to the game, gives them the 5-goal lead. And a big one for the Big Red because not only a huge victory for them in terms of their resume, gets them in the pole position for the 1 seed for the Ivy tournament when the time comes. They'll have the tiebreaker over the Tigers. And as well, a very big shot of confidence after last week's loss. So, heading into this week, I felt like I picked Cornell to win this game because I felt like they are the team that needed a little bit more desperation, given that Princeton's got the wins already from their early slate. Cornell needed them. Cornell gets it, and now they are 1-0 to start off Ivy League play.
I think Cornell played like the team who needed this win a little bit more. There was a lot of energy and juice from the Big Red early in this game. Some big ground ball wins, some runouts that they won early in the first quarter. I thought Princeton looked heavy-legged by comparison early on, and Princeton came back into this game in the second quarter that made it a game, but by the fourth quarter they looked really kind of out of gas, I would say, and they didn't really have a lot left in the tank. And Cornell, the second half kind of looked a lot like Cornell's game against Penn State, but Cornell was able to shut the door. 4 goals on and possessions also became a bit of a factor, which is a more low possession kind of game in the third quarter, but then just one goal on 8 possessions in the fourth quarter for Princeton, whereas Cornell scored 4 of 11 in the fourth quarter. And while Princeton was able to get some momentum with face-off wins in the second quarter, Kobe Ginder and Andrew McMeekin turned it around. Face-off play really started to tilt in the second half. Cornell won 67% of the faceoffs in the third quarter, and they won 83% in the fourth quarter for Cornell. So, yeah, I thought Cornell came out with a desperation and energy of the team that probably needed the win a little bit more, just comparing to these teams accomplished in non-con play. Obviously, coming off last week's loss, a bad taste in their mouth, how they let that game slip away. And maybe even just a little bit of this is now, and this is something you've talked about for Princeton. Some of these, I mean, this is certainly a rivalry game. I don't know if the Maryland game qualifies as a rivalry game. They do play every year, and they played a lot in the last 4 or 5 years. But this is 5 in a row now for Cornell over Princeton, and some of the last couple have been nail biters, crazy finishes. Last year's was Coulter Mackesy kind of turns the ball over the top of the box late in the game. Cornell goes down the other way and wins. There was other like 1 goal kind of over OT finishes in there. This is usually a game that produces, rivalry that produces some crazy overtime or right down to the wire finishes. This one was a pretty authoritative game. Now, do I think there's a 5-goal spread between these two teams in terms of the overall quality? No. But I do think there was maybe a bit of Cornell trying to make a statement that, hey, Princeton is the team that kind of got more of the, I would say, attention in the preseason. And certainly Princeton is the team that's getting the plaudits and attention right now because of how they've started in the non-conference. But Cornell has been the better team in the Ivy League for most of the last couple of years. Obviously, Princeton's kind of won the Ivy League tournament, but it's been Cornell's domain the last couple of years. They've been the top team in the Ivy League. And so I wonder if that's maybe part of some motivation as well. I think there was a lot of motivation in Cornell. And I think Princeton looked there was an energy gap.
A little tired
on the Prince side. Yeah, just a little. I think they tried to meet it and they pushed their way back into it, but it just wasn't enough. CJ Kurse had a fantastic game, 5 goals, 2 assists, broke the all-time goal scoring record at Cornell. Whatever you can say, whatever you want about shot clock, more possession these days, goal record inflation. Certainly, all this is true. But look, you got to pass a hell of a lot.
Rob Pennell,
Rob Pennell, Mike French, Eamon McEnany. Like you got to pass a hell of a lot of great players at Cornell to break that record. So, I think definitely for Cornell it was a game that they knew they needed to win. Needed versus, again, they're not must-win games usually March 15th, but this was a big one for them, and they played like it.
Yeah, because, you look at the schedule, Cornell's next opportunities would have been all the way until next month when they play Syracuse and Harvard back-to-back. So this was, not a must-win game, as you said, not a must-win game, but definitely one that you really want to have, especially as everything, shakes out in the back end of the month. But, yeah, and again, I think, Princeton definitely had the effort level there. That's not the issue at all with it. But, I think, as you said, with them, how they looked and, the second half you told they were being tired, kind of looked like what happened a couple of years ago in the NCAA tournament with Penn State. Remember, they exerted a lot of energy in that stretch at the end of the Ivy League season.
Yep.
That they got to the NCAA tournament. They looked great in that first half against Penn State. And then second half, the legs were just not there anymore. Last year, to a smaller extent, against Maryland as well. And this start of the season has been all gas, no brakes for Princeton. And you start to see it today. Now, the good news is they got Harvard next week. And that puts an end, and that's going to wrap up their gauntlet to start the season. We've been talking all about Princeton's gauntlet. You get a win against Harvard at home, and you're at 5-2 after that start of the season. I think they're in very good shape where they're not going to have to exert as much energy come the back end of the season. And I think that's going to bode well for them come NCAA tournament time. But as you said, Cornell's now kind of in that list of boogie teams like they used to be in the back end of the tyranny era. I mean, remember the back end of the tyranny era, they struggled mightily against Cornell.
Yeah, against Tam.
In that, yeah, against Tambroni. Remember, they I think they went I think out of regular season games from like 06 to 2010, I think they won one game against Tambroni, and I think it was 2009, and then that was followed up by them losing in the NCAA quarterfinal to Cornell anyway. So Cornell's was a boogie team to Princeton. I know we always talk about, in your case, Maryland. They have, they have beaten them in the regular season since 04.
Which is crazy because, Princeton used to beat Maryland. Princeton used to beat Maryland all the time in the 90s.
And, or Syracuse when they regularly played, where they've only won twice since 2005. But Cornell's among them too. And I think that's kind of the only thing that's holding Princeton back, I think, a bit, is on one part, the legs, which I think, because the way this schedule has been structured, I think they're going to be in better shape come May than they have been in years past. They're not going to have to exert so much effort in Ivy League play, and they've already been used to it at this part of it. So it's, I think, a little bit better that they're a bit worn out now than they would be come the back end of April. But they do still have to get through that Harvard game. But the other thing is, if the three teams that are looming large on them are Maryland, Cornell, and Syracuse, and you get to the quarterfinals, there's a good chance you're playing one of those three teams. So you got to overcome that mental block. And I mean, it's one thing like when for your example in hockey, like the Capitals getting past the Penguins. But it's another thing if it's like you're if you're like an AFC team, like let's say the Chargers back in the day when, it's not just the Patriots, it's also the Colts, it's also the Steelers, and you got multiple teams that you gotta, get that out of your head of having those struggles. So I think both teams are top 5 teams. I think that's a great bounce back win for Cornell, and I think they're back on track. And I think Princeton's going to be fine in the end. But this game does kind of show that, Ivy League's going to be an interesting race. We're going to have to see how both teams do against Harvard. And, I think, too, that it showed that, last week we were coming out of it. Well, might be the case where Maryland and Princeton are ahead of the pack. Princeton would have won this. They certainly would have been. But now it looks like, that 2nd through 6th or 7th is going to be quite fluid as we go along.
I think for Princeton, I look at it, it's not so much you mentioned it. To me, it's the face-off play. People often talk about face-off play, and I sometimes downplay where your face-off unit is at, because I say, hey, like, you win 48% of your face-offs in a big game. If you win 48% of your face-offs, how many face-off wins? It really is that. But if I go Penn State or Princeton against Penn State, 25% face-off wins. Against Maryland, 30.5%. Against Duke, 44%. North Carolina, 30%. Rutgers, 32%. Against Cornell in this game, 41%. That's not our face-off unit is a weakness. That's our face-off unit is in the bottom of the country. Like there was only one Big Ten, Ivy, ACC team worse in the country, and it was Harvard in face-off efficiency coming into this weekend. Like Princeton was in the. I keep saying Penn State, my bad. Princeton was like 64, 65, 66, something like that coming to this weekend. That submarines your season level face-off play. That's the kind where you lose. Not to, I hate give you nightmares, Ryan, but that's Syracuse 2013. You lose 25 of 30-something face-offs on Memorial Day. That's you just don't know, like bad day, crisis level situation. And look, I think you can look at this team goalie through, and the goalie play is the upshot of it. Ryan Craddock made 14 saves today, some great ones too. He kept them in the game. He's had some terrific games for them. He made 20-something saves against Rutgers last week. He's had 20 save games this year. You look at their defense, I think it's pretty good. Their offense is certainly dynamic. They're strong in the middle of the field. You could maybe make an argument, are they the best team in the country, like at the goalie through attack? Be hard to maybe argue Maryland with how they've been playing, but you can maybe make an argument. They're certainly a top 5 team attack through goalie. Their attack, their midfield, their defense, transition play. Their transition play is very good, and their goalie. And obviously, look, they've played some very good face-off teams to start. They've played almost exclusively, aside from Rutgers. The lowest ranked team they've played in this stretch is a top 8 team outside of Rutgers.
But they were struggling against Rutgers too. They weren't.
Yes, and Rutgers
that's the concern.
Yes, and Rutgers has a great face. Palato's a great face-off guy. So even if Rutgers is not like every team they've played is, even Duke though. Duke's not Duke today got dominated by Richmond and Chinoy. Duke seems like a decent face-off team, but they faced a gauntlet of face-off guys. But this is the group you're going to play. Like the teams you mentioned. Are you go up against Syracuse? You're going to go up against John Mullen, really good face-off guy. You go up against Maryland. You're going to go against their 2 head of face-off unit with Keithler and Crater. You go up against Cornell. Kaskinen, good face-off guy. You want to beat Notre Dame, Will Lynch. Even a quarterfinal against, say, a Georgetown, potentially. Not maybe a team, not a vintage Georgetown team by any stretch, but Ross Prince at the face-off dot is a really good face-off guy. That's the kind of game where it's, or maybe a first-round game against. It wouldn't be a first-round game against Georgetown with how high they're going to be seeded.
Or even a Hopkins, or even a Hopkins in a quarterfinal.
Hopkins, good face-off group. Yeah. Or I don't think, I mean, I'm not going to say like Richmond today, what they almost did to Duke, winning 18 of 26 faceoffs.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, if you're a 4 or 5 seed, you're probably going to get paired with Richmond, especially geographically.
Yes,
if Richmond wins the A10.
So Delaware is a team that has I don't know if Delaware is going to be in this now. Considering how Delaware's game went, you could obviously see Princeton scored 25 goals on them. But
yeah,
like my point is, if you're going to get past, this is the flashing warning sign for this team right now. It's at a level where you wonder how far can you go with that? Maryland 2017 feels maybe like blueprint. They went through how many great faceoff guys? They went through TD. They went through Baptiste. They went through Jake Withers of Ohio State. And then I think they went through Kenny Massa, not Kevin, I think Bryant. Just a crazy run of faceoff guys to win the championship. But that's a different time, man. Shot clock. And that was a whale of a team. I think Princeton's a great team, as we've seen. The fact that they've done what they've been able to do with the faceoff play they've gotten is, I mean, winning that Duke and Carolina stretch with the little faceoff they got is incredible. But it's an obvious concern. And like, it didn't cost them the game today, but
it could in the future.
Yes. And it's also, you couldn't really, in a game like this where you don't have your legs and you're trying to make a comeback, you want something to you want a lifeline back into the game. They were able to get it when they won those faceoffs. Like they won 3 or 4.
Yeah, they had a good stretch in that second quarter.
And you saw look at what that offense does when they just get 3 or 4 possessions in a row. Like just how easy it is to get that offense fuel. Just bang, bang, bang. This offense, it does feel like this offense is kind of playing to a degree with one hand tied behind their back. And whereas on the flip side, Cornell's offense, it really felt like Princeton's defense was trying to just kind of like throw the kitchen sink at them. They tried zone at different times. They tried a lot, and this Cornell offense is they're too good to try to. I didn't think Princeton's defense played particularly poorly, but
it's such a testament to how good this Cornell offense can be when they're firing on all cylinders.
Exactly, they're too insane. They got 3 attackmen down there with Kirst, Goldstein, and Long. You got to pull all those guys. They all great with the ball in their stick, great passers, smart players. They got shooters up top. You're going to pull one of Kelleher or Firth, and then you're going to leave one of them on a shorty. And when the way they space the ball, when they're really in sync, it's just too hard to stop. So, I just thought it was a testament to when Cornell doesn't beat themselves, they're a really, really good team. They're a really tough team to stop. And I thought their defense did a good job defending Princeton. Like, their defense does a better job when they can kind of funnel guys down the alley and defend them behind the goal. I thought Princeton, again, it was hard. Didn't have the ball as much. Princeton early on was able to dodge from the midfield from up top. And Cornell, again, still their defense. I don't like the way their shorties defend up top in space. They're not super physical. I think they give up too much leverage. But when they get them, Cornell's close defense is pretty good. And when Cornell was able to get them in tight to the cage, they would defend them behind the goal. I thought that was some good defense. Again, it looked like it, obviously a game plan that Cornell came in with. They really wanted this game. And I think, again, Cornell, the Richmond game, they came out slow. The Penn State game, they didn't finish. This was a more complete performance. When this Cornell team puts a complete game together, they're a heck of a team. We need to see it more often. Do they have Yale next?
They do have Yale next at New Haven.
Yeah, I think we need to start seeing some, they got Yale, they got Penn.
The Penn game in 2 weeks could be a good.
Yeah, we need to start seeing more of this from Cornell. Put these games together. Put some complete games together from Cornell.
Yeah. And if you can put those complete games together in that Yale Penn stretch, that'll get them ready to go for that Syracuse Harvard stretch in April.
Absolutely. Yeah.
All right. Next up, when I think about closers, you think of, Mariano Rivera, Trevor Hoffman, Edwin Diaz. They're big coffee drinkers. And, Duke, for as hectic as some of their games have been this year, they've been getting some Starbucks after the games quite a bit. The St. Joe's game was a little iffy, but they got some coffee after it. The Michigan game, for a huge example, they were looking dead in the water, but you know what? They got some Starbucks after it. Richmond, they've been having to buy the, at Starbucks, they got like the 6-ounce organic milk pouches that cost like $8. Richmond's had to resort to them. Would that change today? No. Duke 13, Richmond 12 in double overtime. And my God, Richmond had this again. They had this. Not only did they have a lead late in the game,
they had the ball. They had the ball. They had the ball up one, and they turned it over. Then they had the ball with a chance to win in regulation. They had the ball twice with a chance to win in overtime.
Yeah, they got a great defensive stop twice. They lost the faceoff in the first overtime, got a nice stop, and then they called timeout. But yeah, I mean, that's the big story of this, is that this is now, Richmond's 5-3. The first loss against Maryland, they were, blown out at the very beginning. But
not their face.
That's Cornell and Duke. Cornell and Duke that they could have had huge home upsets.
Should have
in this homestand that have gone to the wayside. And I mean, look, they're going to be plenty fine for A-10 play, so that's not an issue. Though, granted, that game against UMass next month is going to be huge because UMass is stringing together wins too, so it's no guarantee of winning the A-10. But you could have had an at-large shout, but this is 2 wins that they've let go to the wayside, and a span of 2 weeks between Cornell and Duke, which is a shame because Richmond's had a great effort in these games. They just haven't put together the final 3 minutes in overtime in them.
If they had won this game, they absolutely would have had a shout. Like, if they won this game, they would have had a shout. And then if they had won this game, they had Georgetown next week. If they had won this game, beaten Georgetown, they would have been right. I mean, forget shouts. They probably would have it. I mean,
yeah.
So it's a story. I mean, at this point with the program, look, it's a difficult thing to touch on because on the one hand, they are the only program we have this conversation with. And to a certain degree, it's like, all right, you have to give them credit. If you're the only program we have this conversation with, you deserve credit for the fact that we talk about you in this breath.
Yeah, especially because in this day and age where the big three have just taken up more of the oxygen, there's not as many mid-majors up there anymore. It's really just Richmond and Georgetown.
And Georgetown's not a mid-major.
But they're not a mid-major. Right. Big East, P5 and hoops. So.
In the 2000s, Georgetown was playing on national television in the 2000s with Virginia, Maryland, and Syracuse and all those teams every.
Yeah, so Georgetown and Denver are the two are like high majors playing in a overall mid-major conference.
If you put Richmond in the ACC every year, the over/under on their win total is half. Fair?
Yeah.
If you put Georgetown in the ACC every year, the over/under on their win total is 1.5 to 2.
Mm-hmm.
It's just a different conversation. It's a different conversation. The resource that Georgetown has is entirely different to.
Yeah, Georgetown and Denver are the exceptions to the rest of the conference.
Yeah, Georgetown's.
It was like when Creighton was in. It's like Creighton back when they were in the Missouri Valley, or Gonzaga. Yeah,
so Georgetown's a top 10 job in the country.
Yeah,
I mean it's totally different. So the fact that they are in this conversation means that they've earned. There's a certain respect, obviously, and we all have a credible amount of respect for Richmond. We do this because there's a frustration because we want to see them win. We want to see Richmond win these games. We want to see Richmond have an opportunity, and because we love the A10 as a league, we think it'd be great if the A10 could get an opportunity to have multiple teams in the NCAA tournament. And because what Richmond's done, and it's because they're at the point of where they're bumping up against sort of their ceiling, or the next step as a program. They make the NCAA tournament every other year, or maybe even consecutive years. It's because this was a season where they lost so much from last year, and for most programs at their level, when you lose so much, look at Towson. Towson's 2-5 right now. Lost some key pieces from last year. Still brought a lot back. They made the NCAA tournament. Lost to Houston. Good game. They're 2-5, and this was Towson, who used to be the mid-major, and they're 2-5 coming off of a really good season, and they brought a lot back. They ranked in the top 15. Richmond is at a point where, hey, we lost like a bunch of our offense from last year, like 60 to 70%, and we're just in the top 15 again of the country a month into the season. And look, they get it. They get the games. They have the respect of. They've played Maryland, Virginia, Cornell, Duke, and they're going to play Georgetown. Like, they get the they play them at home. Like, they get Duke and Virginia and Maryland to go to and Cornell to go to Richmond. Some of these teams get opponents they play, but they don't get. Very few of them are like Richmond are able to get these folks to travel to their place. They have a great stadium. They get great crowds. So this is not like a lot of this is because of the.
Yeah, they're a great they're a program that's run great.
Yeah, but unfortunately, I mentioned since 2019.
And they got Dom Stars. They got Dom Stars on the mic.
Indeed. Since 2019, they've played 10 of these 1-goal games against, and they've played there's others. It's not just like they have 2 wins. They beat Virginia in 2022 and 2025. They've also had games against some of these games that they haven't lost close, but they've had 10 games since 2019 against Big Ten, ACC, Ivy League opponents. that have been decided by 1 goal. 2 of those were NCAA tournament games in the first round, against Duke in 2019, against Penn in 2022. The Penn one is the one that's you really remember. And they're 1-9 in those games. And the one win was against Notre Dame in 2019. So they've lost their last 8 of these 1-goal games that have been in the last 6-7 seasons against these top 3 conference oppositions. They've lost 8 in a row,
and none since COVID.
Yeah, so since COVID. There's some other ones too. There's also a 1-goal loss to Georgetown in 2023. There's who was a quarterfinal team. There was a 1-goal loss to Loyola in 2021, back when Loyola was a quarterfinal team. So it's tough. Again, there was the Virginia win this year. There was the Virginia win in 2022. This year, Virginia feels like maybe a different kind, but Virginia in 2022 was still a good Virginia team. It's tough. And the thing is, they feel they're similar, as we talk about. They have opportunities at the end of the game. The execution, hard to, don't often execute well enough out of timeouts. Granted, out of timeout execution in college lacrosse can be poor. If you execute well out of timeouts in college lacrosse, you're out of the norm, it feels like.
That's definitely been the trend lately.
For a while, honestly.
For a while, yeah.
So, yeah. I said going in, I felt like we were going to learn more about Duke after this game than we would Richmond. I feel like it's maybe that's true. Richmond. To be fair, I still did. I do still like this Richmond team. I think this might be one of Chamati's better teams. Like the way they can play at different speeds. It feels like with Richmond in the past, when you know how Richmond's going to win this game, is they're going to play at a slow pace. It's going to be defense. This Richmond team can play at faster speeds. They can play quicker. They can play more early offense. It was impressive the way. I mean, they hunted Duke down. They were down 10-6. Mm-hmm. I mean, they hunted Duke down in the fourth quarter. Now, a lot of that was face-offs, which was a big factor in this game. They won 66%. Getting Jared Chenoy back has been huge for them. He was out for the first couple games of their season, especially the Maryland game was a big part of that. But they got him back against Cornell, and they got him back against Duke. It's been a big factor. Richmond failed no clears in this game, and Duke failed 6, which contributed also hugely to the possession deficit. Starger mentioned on the call, Duke looked dead dog tired by the end of that game defensively. And Richmond hunted them down. But I still thought that Richmond was able to, like some of their goals, even in that run, they were able to get quick goals. So I think Richmond can play with these teams a different way now. They can play. They were able to change the tempo what they played at. In terms of learning more about Duke, man, they feel like the embodiment of this season right now. Like you don't know what to make of some of these teams. They're 8-1, which I think is the most wins in the country. Fairfield might have 8. As well.
Fairfield's they're at 8-0 now.
So Duke's got 8 wins, which is tied for most of the country. They got 1 loss. Their wins are of note. Michigan in OT. I don't know if that. I think Michigan might be in the top 20 in like RPI. I don't they might be hanging on in there, which is going to come obviously more into fruition in the next couple weeks. I don't know if Michigan was in the top 20 in the media poll this week. They're not going to be after they got curb stomped by Notre Dame this week. That was an overtime. They had to come back from down like 3 goals or 2 goals late in that game. They have a win over Penn by about 4 or 5 goals. Good second half performance in that one. Penn put up a Penn-esque kind of win over Brown today. Didn't crack 10 goals. And they have an OT victory over Richmond. So, and they lost to Princeton by 1 goal.
Mm.
So their wins
that actually might have been their best. That might have been their best game all year.
I absolutely think their best performance was the Princeton game. In this game, even you can look at it's like Duke's like a choose your own adventure. like you want to point at it. You're like, well, hey man, that offense, considering the like amount of faceoffs they lost, the offense actually played pretty well. Considering being like losing that many faceoffs, like the efficiency numbers are pretty good. On the other hand,
and the defense is stepping up in crunch time, even if they're shaky in other times.
Failing 6 clears. Face off, kind of felt like that might have been a strength for them. You think of maybe something they could rely on throughout the year. They were 40% against Penn, who's not a great face-off team. Here, struggled a bit against Richmond. Their wins don't blow you away. And also, they just didn't feel like they could ever really separate against Richmond here. Now, some of that, again, is face-offs. That goes into it. But still, they didn't feel like they had that extra gear to really separate. Even against Penn, like, they won that game. I remember going back and thinking, like, well, they blew Penn out, right? And it's like, well, they won by, like, 11-5. Like, they kind of got a bit of a... 11-6. Yeah, it's like they made that run.
I think that was like a 3 or 4 goal gap the whole time. It wasn't anything like
no, they were behind at halftime. It was like I think by 1, or it was like a 1-goal game. And then
that's right.
Duke scored like 3 goals right out of the break, and it's like, oh, this game's over. Because it's like Penn's not going to score enough to catch up with Duke. And then
the Providence, the one team they did blow out was Providence midweek.
And even that game, Providence kind of came back.
That shrunk at the end. That shrunk the gap shrunk at the end, but that was kind of like the first time Duke
Providence got that game to like 8-6 after halftime. But look, 6-goal win. They're like a choose your own adventure. Like you can kind of write
even the Air Force. Weren't they down behind Air Force too at the half or the first quarter?
Air Force was, because
that was a weird one too.
They were tied in the first quarter. It was 8-5 in the 8-5 after the second half. In that game, they had a huge possession advantage. They outpossessed them like 46-32. The St. Joe's and Jacksonville games. Again, you can kind of write your own story here. Like, I don't know. And like you don't want to do like the transitive. This isn't necessarily the transitive property. It's like, how do you place them? All right. Well, they beat Michigan with a comeback. Desperate McAdory late. I saw Michigan against North Carolina. Didn't look like they belonged. Saw them against Notre Dame. Definitely didn't look like they belonged. So they don't feel like they're on that Michigan or that North Carolina Notre Dame tier in the ACC. On the flip side, you could say, well, they play this Richmond game comparison with Cornell, similar performance. Are they on Cornell's tier? Maybe. They lost to Princeton. Cornell beat Princeton, but different, games there. The Cornell game also, you can maybe, if you want it to be the negative stance for Duke and positive for Cornell, you could say Cornell got down by like 6 goals, like off the bus, and then kind of stormed back. Gus say Duke was up in this game against Richmond and then kind of got closed back. Again, it's very choose your own. You can kind of pick your own story here. I think they're a good team. I think that they are, if I had to rank the ACC, I'd put them 4th. And I think that the Syracuse game is going to be really, really important for this team's season. I don't know that they are. Where is the Notre Dame and North Carolina?
Notre Dame UNC is in.
No, Notre Dame Duke.
Notre Dame Duke is in South Bend.
Yeah, that feels like it's going to be a tough road to hay.
Duke Syracuse is in Raleigh. Durham rather.
How about Duke North Carolina?
Duke, North Carolina is in Durham.
Okay. I still feel like Duke, Carolina is going to be tough. I think Virginia, you're going to give them, obviously, they're going to be the favorite. I think Duke, Syracuse is
also sandwiched in between the Notre Dame and UNC game is a trap game in Boston. They play BU. In BU.
Yeah, I think they'll be fine, though. I think this is a high floor team, as we're starting to see. They're not making they didn't have any slip ups so far, like a Duke, any February Duke kind of slip ups. I think that Syracuse game is a big kind of swing game. If they go 1-3 in the ACC, feels like you can maybe get a little squirmy down the stretch there. You might be going into the ACC tournament feeling like we need to do some business. If you win that, I think you're probably comfortable.
Yeah, and on the same token, this looks like it could also be one of these Danowski teams where Duke doesn't blow you away, and then it's Memorial Day week, and then all of a sudden Duke's running out of the tunnel. It's like, what?
Maybe. I don't.
Because that's the issue. Because I think the top
ceiling
is better this year. Yeah.
The ceiling just doesn't feel there to me. I don't know, but we'll see. I mean, could they get better? We have to see. Can they get better over the next? Again, they're gonna. The positive for them is the chemistry of this team feels really good. The Danowski seems to be having a lot of fun coaching them. They try really hard. They're gonna push. They're gonna accomplish exactly what. I don't think they're gonna leave anything on the table this year, which in the past couple of years has definitely been a question with them. But does that equal Final Four or top end ACC, top 1 or 2 in the ACC? I don't know. We'll see. Mm-hmm. That's my read right now. Is I feel like I feel like they're 4, and I think getting that Cuse game is going to be a big one. But maybe I'm wrong. Maybe there's another level to this team that they can unlock, and if Dino can find it, then sure. Again, there's a lot of teams. Once you get past this top, Maryland's obviously good. Princeton looked good. I still think they're really good. You got to count for Notre Dame. Once you get past that mix, there's a lot of teams out there.
Mm-hmm.
Harvard,
about 20 minutes left. Yeah, let's get to that. We got about 20 minutes left. But yeah, Harvard starts Ivy League play with a win over Yale. Very fast start at Jordan Field. They got off to a 6-0 lead. Yale crawled back a bit, but Harvard able to pull away there at the end to win 14-11. Probably one of Yale's best efforts so far in the season, but they are 1-4 now. But for the Crimson, mission accomplished. First test passed. Start Ivy League season 1-0. Big opportunity next week at Princeton. And for Harvard, just keeping steady and notching up another win for them.
I'm beginning to like this Harvard, what I'm seeing on this Harvard team more and more. Ryan, you liked this Harvard team in the preseason, didn't you?
Yes, I had them as my sleeper pick.
Indeed. Speaking of likes, what should you do, Ryan, if you would like this video?
Smash that like button, hit the subscribe button, turn on that bell for notifications. Subscribe to the Crosse Commission podcast on your favorite podcast outlet as well.
Yeah, we talked about them. They feel like they're just kind of checking off boxes right now. A big win over Cuse in the Carrier Dome, a signature non-con victory. This was their first win over Yale in 8 years. Which, is this a vintage Yale Andy Shea team? By no means. I do think Yale's getting better.
Yeah, they're looking better as the season's progressed. So
I think
it might be too little too late when the time comes, but they are improving as the games are going on. You saw it last week at Denver. Today they were showing some fight. We'll see how the Cornell game goes, but they might be back in the mix for the 4 seed in the Ivy League tournament. Not where you want to be if you're Yale after the past decade, but decade plus even, but kind of getting on the right track. But and as you said, even though it's not the same Yale team, that still matters for Harvard. It's a team that's been progressing and improving, and that's a big stepping stone to finally beat your big rival like that.
Yes, well, and we talk about this. I feel like we mention this every week now on the show, especially for these teams who we mention as sleepers or who have maybe made the NCAA tournament or have NCAA tournament droughts. And look, Harvard did make the NCAA tournament a couple years ago, once in Jerry Burns' tenure early on. How do you handle success? This team had success. They beat Syracuse, signature win. Then they had Michigan coming to Jordan Field, a Michigan team that was desperate. They really needed a win. That was a close game late. They got the W. Now you have Yale, your big rival, who you haven't beaten in a long, long time. Beginning of Ivy League play. How do you handle this spot? Do you trip up? Do you struggle in that situation? And they took care of it, and they got the win. And that's handling success well. It's just a different thing from going from underdog sleeper team to potentially top 10. And so yeah, it's 100%. It's not just rival, but it's different, like checking off a box of things you need to do if you're actually going to make a run at the NCAA tournament, at being in the mix for challenging for this Ivy. If you lose this game, you're right back in that mix with Yale and Penn and everyone else, just fighting in the mud for those last two spots. This is the kind of game that gives you separation as maybe a clear number 3 in the Ivy League. This is the kind of game that allows you to really fight for a spot in the NCAA tournament. That's what you need. And it's the way that they're doing it the last couple weeks. This team can play offense. We know like they are ranking incredibly high in the offensive efficiency numbers. They got Sam King, who's one of the best offensive players in the country. But that Michigan game, and granted, Michigan is not an offense that lights the world on fire this year, but they held Michigan to 1 goal on 8 possessions in that fourth quarter. They bucked up when they needed to and got stops, and held on for that win. Against Yale here, they came out firing. Their offense was tremendous. 7 goals in the first quarter. They were up, 6-0, I think, in this game?
Yep, 6-0 to start.
Yes. This game, Yale comes back. The one thing Yale has, now, if you want to be a pessimist, the biggest disparity probably in terms of face-off, if there was going to be one, was this matchup, Yale against Harvard. But the one thing Yale has in a league that's not great facing off, they have the best face-off guy, Machado Rodriguez. Again, the biggest disparity was probably this matchup, and they couldn't get it done. In this game, Yale won 66% of face-offs. Problem for Yale, they blew it away by failing 6 clears. This is where you're still, for Yale, you're feeling like, what's wrong in the alchemy? Like, just mistakes Yale wouldn't normally make under Andy Shea. Making these mistakes. But Yale comes back in that second quarter, scores 6 goals on 11 possessions. Yale's offense is starting to get better. Leo Johnson, Chris Lyons, those guys come back with injuries. Johnson's starting to play some of his best lacrosse of the season these last couple of weeks. Yale's offense, we talk about, they're built from behind the net play. They had Ben Reeves when he went toward time. Then they had Jackson Morrill. It was Matt Brandow. He's playing really well. But in the third and fourth quarters, Harvard holds Yale to 3 goals on 18 possessions. They shoot. Yale had 22 shots. And Harvard holds on. Harvard only scored one. Harvard in the fourth quarter, the last 2 weeks, has only scored 2 goals. And it felt like for Harvard, you think about where they were in that Colgate game. But that game was just, they got swallowed up in Colgate's mess. And you think now, this is the kind of defensive solidity that you would expect from a Jerry Byrne team. The ability to, yes, we have this offense that can look like the Harlem Globetrotters and plays with a confidence. Like against Michigan, they were out there throwing behind the back shots and everyone's just to run and gun it. But this is what you hire Jerry Byrne for. That when it's time, we need to lock down, we can lock it down. And also Harvard, one failed clear today. That's rock solid. Exactly what you want to see out of the Crimson on that end. After Michigan game, they failed 5. So I'm starting to. I was a little bearish on Harvard because it just felt like sort of very Ivy-ish. The way they were playing, great offense. I didn't know about the defense, but they're starting to feel they're growing up a little bit. They're starting to develop a steal to them, and how they've won these last couple weeks. And I think that's the kind of thing that when you get out of Ivy play, you get into the NCAA tournament, if they get there, that's what you need. So I'm liking what I'm seeing from the Crimson these last couple games, and I'm excited to see them against Princeton next week.
Yeah, it's going to be a fun one next week in Tiger Town. And going to be very interesting because that's going to basically put someone on the fast track for at least the top for a top 2 seed. I know it only matters with jersey color, but could be big for second or potentially first in the Ivy. I'm going to pause the clock because Alex Ovechkin scored, and we did make a promise at the start of this show.
Let's go.
Here we go.
Is it muted?
Oh, yeah, I don't know if it plays the video. One sec. We might have to do a little workaround on that. So we'll stay in the DMV, and then once I get the video downloaded, we'll play it after it. Maryland, Virginia, rivalry renewed at Klockner. Very nice crowd. Always a fun environment when Maryland and Virginia square off. Virginia kind of made it close in the beginning of the fourth quarter, but then Maryland pulls away to a 12-6 victory. Maryland, another big fast start. Looked like they were going to run away with it, but Virginia clawed back into it. Some good defensive play. But then Maryland able to pour it on again in the fourth quarter to come away with the victory. And Jake, as you said, with Princeton's face-off play being an issue, in this case, I think the story of this game is the Cavaliers' goaltending.
Yeah. Basically a double up split. 65% by Logan McNaney, who I'm not going to discuss the, it's like it's March 15th, and I'm not sure there's a lower IQ discourse possible than, discussing the one award they hand out at the end of the season. And I'm usually like, listen, just I like awards, things like that. But it's just it just feels like the silliest thing you could possibly do. But is there a more like maybe MVP? Logan McNaney right now is. I'm not sure I've ever seen a college goalie as locked in my time watching. The run he's on is pretty insane. Through this first 7 games, we're about to be almost 2 months into the season. Like easy first, it's like first team All-Americans, like a layup. He's obviously clearly been the goalie of the year for 2 months, but he does feel like the player of the year. If you were giving out a player of the year through 2 months of the season, he feels like he's the player of the year.
Yeah, through St. Patrick's Day weekend, he's stepped up big time in these games. I mean, you think about all the saves he made against Syracuse, all the saves he made against Princeton, all the saves he made against Notre Dame. And those saves end up being the difference, especially against the Irish, where, he doesn't make those saves. Notre Dame wins, and we're talking about a completely different complexion to this season.
I mean, he's making the routine saves are effortless. That's what they talked about. They hit on it in the on the broadcast. The routine saves are just completely effortless. Everything is it's like he's just like going for a walk in the park on a Sunday morning. Anything that's not if you're taking a like stick side high shot with him, that ball's going the other way, man. Like, see you later. But some of the stops in that first quarter, Virginia had some legit really good looks, and he gobbled them up. I mean, the one right on the crease is insane. He's just so dialed in, and Maryland is playing defense with the belief that he's going to save everything. It's complete confidence. That's part of it where it's difficult. They kind of mentioned, Maryland needed him to play a great game to beat Notre Dame. It's like, true, but Maryland expects him to play this well. They're playing defense.
Yeah, it's not like he's stealing games. He's playing to his ability.
Like, he's doing this every game. He's doing this every game. I mean, every single game so far is, we're not talking about, I mean, that Notre Dame game was his best game, I would say, for sure. I mean, this game might have been, we can talk about, but he was at 70% against Richmond, 59% against Loyola. That was his worst game. 63% against Syracuse, 57% against Princeton, 62% against Notre Dame, 84% against Delaware, and 68% against Virginia.
84.
The Delaware game, yeah. He had 16 saves on 19 shots, and that game was pretty. He didn't really face many tough.
Yeah, like he's Delaware, but still, like,
he's not. Again, anything that's comfortable for him, anything that's not a really tough shot is light work. You're seeing it. He looks, the stance, he's completely locked in. It's so fluid. He's never out of position. He's seeing the ball, so he is on it the way he's seeing the ball. By contrast, with Matt Nunes, it felt like every goal that Maryland scored, the commentators mentioned, like, I'm not sure about Nunes' fundamentals here. I'm not sure about the stance. It's like, man, I don't know. And Virginia, you look at how Virginia played this game. This is a weird game because, on the one hand, the goalie disparity was so substantial. On the flip side, Maryland turned the ball over like 18
times, right?
And Virginia only turned it over like 5 or 6. And I don't think Virginia only had maybe like one fail clear, and Maryland had 5. So there's this weird. Virginia played such a clean game. Maryland did not play a clean game. Maryland played by far their sloppiest game of the year. The goalie disparity was so substantial. And Virginia felt like they actually played some good 6-on-6 offense. Like, they created some good looks. And then you're looking at the scoreboard, and it's like, you scored 6 goals on 36 possessions.
Yeah, the end of the third quarter, it looked like, hey, this is looking like the Virginia team of old. And then, I mean, part of it, again, is crediting it to Maryland's defense. They're still the best single unit in the country. But I don't know. It's also weird to think about. We're at St. Patrick's Day weekend, and Virginia's sub 500.
They have to. It's a lot like Maryland the last couple of years. They just have to try so hard to score. Like, they were trying so hard. And that's the thing I'm left with is, I think Virginia's game plan today, I think what Lars and Cassis did and Kip trying to defense, I think they did really well. I think goalie play really hurt them this game. I do, because I think Kyle Morris wasn't making saves for them, which I understand why you need your goalie to make saves for you. But he wasn't letting in goals either. I mean, Maryland scored 5 goals in the first 6 shots. A couple of those just weren't goals to let in. I think this is a 8-9. Maryland was going to win this game. I mean, Maryland just played better overall. I still think Maryland played because Maryland's defense, as you said, Maryland's defense is the best unit in the country. And even when Virginia would get a step, the comments talk about, like, Virginia they put Johnny Hackett in there. They did a decent job getting kind of a first step on there. But even when they get a first step, Maryland's slides and rotations are just so good. Virginia, at the end of the day, you just can't get past 6 goals, 36, shooting 17%. They play clean. They only turned the ball over 7 times. They just couldn't get the ball in the net. And, McCabe Millen on Will Schaller just didn't happen at all. 1 assist, 7 shots. Colsey 1 goal, Sunderland 7 goals. Griffin Schutz took 1 shot. I mean, he got the 4th pole. He got Jack McDonald or AJ Larkin, and it didn't happen. I think Virginia's a similar story, kind of like Yale. Virginia's gotten better, and the hole feels too big, and it also feels
it doesn't feel like it's too late. Yeah,
too late, or they're just not.
I mean, they look. Yeah,
I just don't.
They look better.
Yeah, Connor Schellenberger's just not walking through the door, man. Cormier's not there. The pieces just. Pete LaSalle just ain't there. I just don't think the horses are on this Virginia team this year. Can you?
Yeah, and I'm looking at their ACC schedule. Like, Cuse is at Klockner, but they got to go to the road for UNC and Notre Dame. They never beat Duke, so it's not even like they got their chances at Klockner in ACC play. They got Cuse, which if you get Cuse on one of their screwy days, maybe. But I mean, that's going to be a tough ask for them to get into the position for the ACC tournament.
I don't see the. I just don't see the pieces there on this squad. That's the thing. I don't know on that offense. The midfield's not producing. Schutz drawing a pull. Schutz has got to do better drawing a pull, and then after that, you're not even playing a second midfield. That's the bottom line. I just don't. You look at where I've been saying for a while that they were going to hit what Maryland did the last couple of years. Maryland at least was able to throw kind of bodies at it. They were able to play a lot of guys. Virginia's playing 6 guys on offense. And at Shorty, they're not deep at Shorty at all. Noah Chismar is a hell of a player, by the way. He's taking every shift. Ben Ware is an amazing player, but he's taking every shift. And at the end of the day, if you're going to make it, if you're going to plot a roadmap for Virginia, how do you, as an underdog, make it happen? Well, you need your goalie to be great. They got a goalie competition.
It's March 15th, and you have a goalie competition, which is not good. All right, we are into extra time. So finish your point on this, and then we'll go around the scoreboard.
And face-off play. They just I don't really see. They're a decent face-off team, but they have a lot of face-off guys. They play a lot of face-off guys because they don't really have a clear dominant guy. In this game, Maryland won the face-offs 59-41. So overall, 3 straight games, sub 50% face-off play against Hopkins, Towson, and Maryland. So can't do it at the dot, can't do it on saves. Can you shoot the ball? 44th in shooting percentage. I just don't know that I really. Yeah, I don't think it's happening. How do teams kind of make this run? You're gonna kind of cobble it together. Maryland last year, you thought, well, it came with Luke Weirman at the faceoff dot. It came with Logan McNaney in part playing better in goal. Weirman was the big part though, and they had depth, and I just don't see what depth. So, look, again, I give credit to Lars, and I think that in the staff, I think they had a good game plan today to kind of push this thing together, but I don't. This is as far as it got them. And granted, look, Maryland might be the best team in the country, but if this is as far as it got, yeah. I'm not sure I see it.
All righty. So as we promised, we did promise this. Oh, why is it muted? I don't know why it doesn't want us to have our fun with this. Let's see. One more thing I'm going to try so we get our commercial on. Because Ovi scored. Try one other thing that's not the one I wanted.
Let me run down the scoreboard while we're...
All right. Well, yeah, I'll do that while we go. So Fairfield beats Hampton 29-4 to open up CAA play.
Jesus, Fairfield Stags. My goodness.
Fairfield is now 7-0.
8. You said 8.
8-0. Yep, 8-0.
Where's Fairfield offense? Fairfield is... So they were 17th in offensive efficiency coming into this game. But that's with a couple of slower, like kind of low games early on in the season, like where they were in the 20s. Fairfield in offensive efficiency, 22nd adjusted offensive efficiency, I think coming in. But they were 20 in 4 games in February. They were 28th they were 28% adjusted offensive efficiency, 22% adjusted defensive efficiency. 39% adjusted offensive efficiency last 3 games. They scored 20 against St. John's, 19 against UMass Lowell, 15 against Providence, now 29 against Hampton. It's Hampton, granted. Their defense has played really well as well. I mean, look, it's, we talk about, obviously competition plays a part here. Lehigh, Brown, Sacred Heart, Manhattan, Providence, St. John's, UMass Lowell, Hampton, but won by 3, 6, 1, 1. But those since a couple of 1-goal wins against Sacred Heart, Manhattan, 8 against Providence, 12 against St. John's, 14 against UMass Lowell, 25 against Hampton. I mean, blowing teams out, there's something to that, dude. and
with the state of the CAA this year.
Yeah, there's something to blowing teams out, 100%. Like, if you can do that, you got a team worth talking about. So, man, watch out for the Stags.
Mm-hmm. Also, last night, Binghamton opened up America East play with a 14-12 win over UMass Lowell. LIU 15-12 over Mercyhurst. UMBC 10-7 over Vermont. St. John's, they're currently playing for the Big East title in hoops. Did Patino rock the white suit tonight?
I haven't seen it.
I haven't seen it yet either. They're trailing by 3 at halftime to Creighton. But their lacrosse team over in Queens, 20-16 win over Mercer. High scoring action there in that one. Army, Patriot League win 14-3 over Lehigh. So that defense really not letting anything in there. So Army still undefeated as well. So Army now up to 7-0. They get their first real big test next week at Michie against BU.
And then it's Carolina's after the week after that.
Yep.
That's the big game to watch with Army.
The litmus test.
Yeah, if Army's going to be if you were looking to watch this Army team, what's their are they on a single track or 2-track path going forward? The Carolina game is the one to watch. They need. And we're going to be worth pointing out the way that the media polls shook out last week. Army's probably going to be number 2 next week. Well, they were number 1 in the country after that North Carolina game or before it, either last year, either one. I mean, this was the point of the season last year where they hit their last 2024 was it? Okay, so actually it was this. So this week, I think it was before. They were number 1 in the country. They beat Lehigh 18-12. I think they got to number 1 before this. They beat Lehigh 18-12. They were number one in the country. And then they went to BU and lost by 5. And then knocked them from number 1. They still came back and beat Carolina 13-12. And it was like, all right, they're still in with a shot. They only have 1 loss. They beat Carolina. They beat Cuse. They beat Rutgers. And then they promptly went back the next week and lost at home to Colgate. And that was, see you later. So this is about the point of the season where it went. I mean, last year was in the Carolina win too. I mean, that was a great win, but this was sort of the high watermark for Army last year when they got to number 1 and then lost to BU. BU has been a bugaboo team for Black Hawks. They lost to them twice a year ago. They lost to them at home at Mitchie in 2023. BU has won. They lost to them in the Patriot League tournament in 2022. So BU's won 4 in a row over Army.
And that's going to be next week's game. And BU won today 13-7 over Loyola. We already had that talk last week with Loyola now down to 0-7.
Yeah, we did the talk, yeah, so everything's kind of been said at this point, but it's unfortunate. Mm-hmm. Dead last in the Patriot League. Never thought I'd say
that. Canisius, did we do Bellarmine? Bellarmine 9-5 in a rain-delayed game. They had a thunderstorm. The big storm rolled through Louisville in the middle of it, but they win 9-5 over St. Bonaventure. Canisius 10-9 over Merrimack. Cleveland State 14-8 over Wagner. Dartmouth 17-5 victory over Hobart. So Dartmouth now at 6-1.
Assuming they start Ivy play next week, they'll be against.
Yep.
Who they got? Brown or Penn?
Penn.
Okay. That'll be interesting.
Yeah, another litmus test, so to speak, game in that one. A wild one in your neck of the woods, Jake. Towson 19, Delaware 18 in overtime. Who the heck expected offense out of a Towson Delaware game? Because we sure as heck got it today.
I mean, last year you would have, I guess. I mean, these are two teams in the past, past couple of years, they've been 2 offensive teams. This year, Towson scored 17 against UMBC. Other than that, they haven't hit more than 10 in any other game. They were 45th in offensive efficiency coming in. Delaware was 60th. Delaware scored 2 against Penn, 3 against Maryland. Scored 11 against High Point. This game is flipping insane. Man. They don't play games like this anymore. Towson scored on over 50% of their possessions. There were a combined 97 shots in this game. These teams scored on 37 of them. 78 combined possessions. There were 37 goals. Only just unreal numbers. In the fourth quarter, there were 8 goals on 15 possessions. There were 23 shots, 8 goals in the fourth quarter. There were 11 goals on 23 possessions in the first quarter. In the Towson scored 5 goals on 7 possessions in the second quarter. Just unbelievable. Every time I refresh the page on this game, there was a lead change. It's just the end of the game is Towson's down by 3 or 4 goals, and then they get it to 18-17 or something. It's like, oh my God, Towson's come back to win. And then I switch from our group chat. By the time I switched from our group chat back to the College Cross account, Delaware's taken the lead again. 17. And then I finally, this game, they show this game on Monumental Sports, the local channel here. And then Towson's tied it up 18. Again, this game is crazy. It was 16-13 Delaware at 13:47. Towson scores 4 goals over the next 7 minutes and 45 seconds to take a 17-16 lead. Delaware proceeds to score twice at 4:47 and with 43 seconds left to go up 18-17. Towson scores 14 seconds later to tie it, and they win it in OT. 8 penalties. Some of the individual performances. Brendan Powers, 7 goals for Delaware on 16 shots.
Bringing the Thunderdome back to the Thunderdome, baby.
I mean, what else we got? Ronan Fitzpatrick for Towson, 6 goals, 6 points on 14 shots. Mikey Weishar, 6 goals, 7 points on 15 shots.
I also love the lack of assists.
Yeah, Towson, I mean, 19 goals for Towson, 9 assists.
10 unassisted goals, sick.
10 assist goals. Delaware, though, shout out 15 of their 18 goals are assisted. Towson was just like, I'll do it myself. What a freaking God. What a crazy lacrosse. What are the goalies? My God, the goalies in this game, dude. 32 combined saves. That's sick.
Sick. Wasn't even like they sucked.
Kevin Ellington, man. Kevin Ellington last week, Delaware against Maryland. Maryland had like 3 goals in the first quarter of that game. And that's because Kevin Ellington was standing on his freaking head. He was making crazy split save. I mean, that dude he's like Mike Smith on the Arizona Coyotes. There's a reference for you. This dude right now, 53.3% save percentage, but it doesn't do this guy justice. I mean, some of his save totals, he had, look at this number, 17 saves, 19 goals given up against Towson, 15 saves, 14 goals given up against Maryland, 14 saves to 6 goals given up against High Point. I mean, this dude is just, he's facing life under siege.
Looked like I was at the Islander-Oiler game last night. It looks like Ilya Sorokin last night.
He's under siege,
him on his back.
Man. Unreal. Nuts. What a game.
Robert Morris, 19-4 win over Detroit. Drexel starts CAA play with a 13-10 win over Monmouth. Georgetown was in a scary one after the first half against High Point. They were actually down at halftime against High Point, but strong second half makes them comfortably win 17-10. Lafayette, 13-8 win over Holy Cross in the Patriot League. This one was a bit of a surprise. Lemoyne, 10-9 victory over VMI. VMI, one-loss team heading into this game, but the Dolphins with a nice victory there. Manhattan, 13-11 win over Mount St. Mary's. UMass comes into Piscataway and come away with an 11-7 victory over Rutgers. Sacred Heart was in danger against Siena today, but they pull it out in overtime with an 11-10 victory. A lot of overtime games this week.
Big one for kind of MAC pecking order. You figure there between those two teams.
Yeah, especially, yeah. Then you had, let's go. Good one to start off Ivy League play. Penn 9-8 victory over Brown. This one was a competitive one. And some improvements as the season's gone along, but Quakers do enough to get the victory there in Philly. Wild one in the Patriot League and the return of the chaos of the Patriot League. The Raiders. Looking like the Las Vegas variety.
The Raiders, not the Raiders. The Raiders.
The Raiders, yeah. 18-7 victory by Bucknell over Colgate. So That's a Patriot League for you, man. 1 week you're looking sky high, the next you crash down.
Yeah, Patriot League. Army 3-0, Colgate 2-1, BU 2-1, Lehigh and Navy are at 1-1, Lafayette, Holy Cross, Bucknell at 1-2, and Loyola is at 0-2.
Quinnipiac 8-7 victory over Marist. We did have another ACC Big Ten matchup today. Notre Dame, not comfortable win for them, 19-7 over Michigan. We'll touch on that in a second. I'll go a little bit more in depth. We'll just run off the rest of the games. Marquette 12, Utah 11. The Golden Eagles there. And St. Joe's beats Villanova 12-8. Games currently going on for some Saturday night lacrosse. People are listening to our ideas. Bryant currently up 6-3 over Albany. Hofstra up 5-4 at the half over Stony Brook. And in the second quarter, Navy currently up on Hopkins 5-4. And Washington Capitals beat the San Jose Sharks 5-1. Alexander Ovechkin with another goal. Please, for the love of God, make this work. Please work. I don't know why. Maybe try muting real quick. Maybe that'll do the trick. Or maybe it's the banner. Let's see if the banner works. Let's try that. They really don't want us to play that clip, I guess. You're muted, Ruth.
Unbelievable. Bad vibes.
No.
How many goals are we away now? 7?
8 from the record, 7 to tie.
7 to tie? All right. How many my games in 2 weeks? I need 5.
Mine's in 4.
I need so we're 7 to tie. I need 5 goals. I need to I at least want to see maybe tire. To see the tying goal. So give me within 2. It's a Sabre, so I think I can get a 2-goal game certainly.
An empty netter.
As
long as he gets a little bit of a rough stretch, so he gets it on the 13th against Columbus.
Speaking of, my friend, do a little show and tell here. My coworker, my friend, his friends went to the game against the Friday night game last week, and they were honoring the Rock the Red era because it's the 50th anniversary season for the Caps. And they were honoring the Rock the Red. His family went, and he wasn't sure what he would do with this, but he knew that. He's a Caps fan, but he wasn't sure what he would do with this. But so he regifted it to me. This is pretty sick.
Ooh, that is pretty sick.
So this is now on my podcasting desk.
Very nice.
Very happy with this.
We'll try one more time. We're going to go back to YouTube for this with the Ovechkin Eastern Motors commercial. If this doesn't work, I'm going to cry. But let's try this one more time. We're on YouTube. Please work. Is it still muted?
Mm-hmm.
Well, nevertheless. We'll eventually get it to work next week, I guess.
That's on me.
All righty. But yes, you want to talk a little bit more about that Notre Dame Michigan game. Nice bounce back for the Irish today.
Oh yeah, that was a big bullet beatdown by Notre Dame. Very impressive. It was the kind of game we were expecting maybe last week. Not the scale. I didn't expect them to beat Ohio State by 12, but very impressive victory for Notre Dame. Puts them in a good spot. Michigan, I think there's definitely a clear separation of the Big Ten in a way that there hasn't been in a couple years. It feels like.
You got Michigan and Rutgers are a step below everyone else.
Yeah, which and I think we'll see. Ohio State's got Denver. Got to go to the Rockies. They need to get that win. There's a Denver team that's scuffling. if they get that, that'll kind of set them up.
Yeah, it's not a must win; it's a can't lose for the Buckeyes tomorrow.
Yeah, because you don't want to the way Denver's kind of set up. That could look like an ugly loss towards the end of the year. Then Ohio State's got Penn State, start Big Ten play. So you want to just situate again, kind of like Harvard. We talk about handle success. If you're Ohio State.
Also, keep an eye out at Jacksonville UNC tomorrow. Since that ugly start to the season with Syracuse and Duke, Dolphins have been looking a bit better.
It's on ESPNU, so
you know,
I mean, there you go. I
got
guess
something wrong with them. Yeah, if you're sick of watching college basketball already, got that. Like a Big 12 championship game with Arizona and Houston.
I can't do that. The Big 12
Get out of here.
court is it's all time.
War crime. All right, so that just about does it. Again, games going on now. So if you're done with us, Albany, Hopkins Navy and Albany Bryan, I believe, are both on ESPN Plus. Stony Brook Hofstra is on Lacrosse TV, I believe, or Flow Sports. Let's see, it is on
Flow Sports.
It's on Lacrosse TV, the Long Island Derby. So you could hang to those. Otherwise, thanks again for watching, listening, and what shall we do? If you really enjoyed listening to it, if you loved that whopper of a joke the first 5 minutes of the episode, you missed it, scrub back. It's pertinent to the current result in Annapolis at the moment as well. Things are going.
Smash that like button.
Smash that like button. Hit the subscribe button. Subscribe to our podcast wherever you get your podcast features. No, we do not have a serial crime drama, but we do have the evergreen content that keeps on delivering seasons.
It's like 5 years old now.
5 years old, and it's still pertinent.
It's true.
We just had to update the best team ever one with the Maryland team, 2022 Maryland. But I didn't know that was, I think, season's part 2.
It's true.
We did the update.
I think so.
So that for that. And of course, hit notifications for when we go live. Next week,
there's a Duke Denver game at 8, which has lost, let's just say, a significant amount of luster. So
yeah, it's being played. That one's in where? It's neutral site. I know that it's in
Texas.
Where's the Corrigan?
Texas.
Oh, this one's Dallas, right? The other one was Houston. This one's Dallas.
The other one was Dallas, wasn't it? Because it was Matt Nunes'.
Towson, Virginia was in Houston, I think. Let me see. Denver, Duke Lacrosse 2025 is in. Let me just see. Sorry. It's in Dallas, Texas.
All right. But after that, there's nothing past like 1 o'clock.
Highland Park.
Penn Dartmouth.
There's Harvard Princeton.
When's Harvard Princeton?
Noon.
No,
that's Colgate Syracuse.
No, but I'm saying those are at noon. Like there's nothing we got.
Yeah, noon. You got a good slate. BU Army. You got Colgate Syracuse, which might be first to 25 wins. You got Harvard Princeton.
For us going live, like there's nothing past 1. I mean, there's
Rutgers, Hopkins, and Cornell, Yale. So we'll probably be a little bit earlier next week, probably around 3-ish.
Yeah, we'll do that.
Knock it out of the way early.
Sunday night BTN. One like the only BTN Sunday nights is next week for Penn State, Ohio State. Panzer.
Oh, they've slimmed down on.
Yes, considerably. The BTN schedule is Penn State, Ohio State next week. I mean, there's BTN games, but it's Penn State, Ohio State next. Then it's Maryland, Penn State at noon, which that sucked. That game, like, that might be one of the biggest games of the season. Cause I don't know, we get that game at like sometime other than noon on Saturday. Awesome, sick, love it. Maryland, Penn State at noon next week, or 2 weeks from now. on Saturday, April 5th, which is that's Final Four weekend. The BTN slate is there a BTN game that week? I don't know. There should be.
No, let's see.
Oh, it's Michigan, Penn State. Michigan, Penn State at noon.
Michigan, Penn State, yeah.
Another noon game.
Maryland,
Saturday,
Rutgers is at 5, but no, is
BTN
that
plus.
BTN?
That's the plus.
BTN plus.
Sunday, April 13th, Rutgers, Michigan is Big Ten Network. Man, they picked a lot of Michigan games. We need to get some flex here. Like Penn State, Hopkins.
You have Friday. Yeah, you got Rutgers. Yeah, you got Hopkins, Maryland on a Friday night doubleheader with Rutgers, Penn State.
That's the last weekend. They always do a double. They do a Friday night doubleheader the last weekend of the regular. There's one more. I think there's one more TV slot they haven't announced, which I'm guessing is Hopkins, Penn State, or Penn State, Hopkins.
Wait, is it at Homewood or in?
Because it's at Panzer. It's Saturday at 1. So there's a lot more. Just
yeah.
And that doesn't. I think there's one more they haven't announced. So I think that's gonna be it. There's a lot more just afternoon, non-prime slots. Usually even in the past, BTN would do like a Saturday night or a Friday night. There's a lot more just regular time slots this year. I don't know. Kind of sucks, but oh well.
I don't know. Ohio State's streaming too. That's weird.
And that game could have some juice. Ohio State's good. It's back at Ohio. It's back at Ohio State after the last.
Man, I picked the perfect day to be on I picked the perfect day to start a vacation. Hopkins, Penn State at 1, Maryland, Ohio State at 2, Syracuse, Cornell at 4, UNC, Duke at 4, Virginia, Notre Dame at 5.
When's that? What day is that?
Bangers in the evening. It's April 12th.
Oh, that's right. Is that WrestleMania Day too? Oh man, that rocks. I think that's spring
no,
break.
It's
that's
next week.
Oh yeah, it's April 19th, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a suck.
So I'll be in Washington and Army Navy to start the day.
That's the start of spring break, though. Start of spring break
spring break for me too. But I'll be down in your neck of the woods.
We're rolling, baby.
I'll be in your neck of the woods ish.
Oh man, that rocks.
Other side of the Potomac, but.
But
otherwise, thank you as always. You could also follow us at college_cross.
Georgetown, Denver too. I mean, Georgetown, Denver.
Yeah, right. I mean, I'll be in DC too late for that one, but I'll be on the other side of DC when that
Army Navy at 12. Army Navy at 12:30.
Yeah,
good lord.
I mean, look at that. That's an all-day slate, man. And they spread it out. Someone's listening.
Just get one. Someone flex tonight. Have a bus delay. Someone plan a bus delay. Get flexed tonight. Push it tonight.
Make a Q's Cornell. Accident on the LIE. There you go.
Yeah, all right.
See you out there, everyone.
Stay hydrated. Back in for president.